It's time for PaleoRadio, only on Secular Media Network.
You are now entering PaleoRadio.
Welcome to PaleoRadio with your hosts Jeremiah Bannister and Joe Elder.
Welcome to yet another episode of Amazing Paleo Radio, live in studio, 95.3 FM, 1680 AM, Public Reality Radio. My name is Joe Elder.
I'm the Night Fever of 1978, Jeremiah Bannister.
Ooh, the Night Fever of 1978.
I am.
That's a lovely one. I like it.
It's true. Night Fever was number one on the night I was born, and I think that I literally embodied what the what that song entails.
You've encompassed all of it.
I am. I've become that.
Yeah. Well, we've both had some night fever. We've both been pretty busy. You had a very awesome speaking engagement yesterday, correct?
Yes. Yesterday I spoke before the board of Make-A-Wish, Michigan.
Yeah.
And I got to talk about Samantha's wish, about the trip to London and to Wales and all the things that we did, and Fox 17 even talking about that, as well as focusing on the in-between times, those intimate moments that aren't part of the iconic images that people think of when they think of London or Doctor Who, but more like a train ride with Samantha on Mama's lap, or crying after having a very deep conversation at a hotel. It was powerful. It was emotional, and it was such an honor to even be asked by Make-A-Wish Michigan to participate in that. And I'm hoping to do more with them in the future.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I also had another stand-up set at Sunday Night Funnies, which is hosted by Brian B. at the Riverfront Hotel on Ann Street. Fantastic venue, by the way. It's free, 2-drink minimum, and please drink more than that to think my jokes are funny, but still, it's a great place. And yeah, it was a very good time. We were very busy. So
we were super busy. Well, and that's the thing. I mean, and we've said this before, but that's one of the reasons we like doing this show the way that we do, because we're otherwise very busy dudes.
Sure.
We're very active and engaged, and that's what makes this so exciting on the weekends.
Yeah, and we feel that our listeners are the same way, and I think that's a reason why people can kind of empathize with what we do, because they also are very busy with their family and other engagements and have to find the time to fit politics in those conversations in. And speaking of, we have some fantastic topics. Mm-hmm. First one starting with Islamic communities containing a tsunami of atheism, they're saying, that's being suppressed. Some ex-Muslim leaders have been talking about this.
And I think that's super fascinating and something that people, even atheists oftentimes in the West, that it's kind of a struggle.
It is.
To think on how to approach it. How does that affect how you deal with Islam across the globe and Islamic countries and the like. We're going to be talking about the Clinton Foundation's legacy in Haiti. Haitians are more than upset. It's a piece. Listen, it's by the Huffington Post.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. So this is not your typical hit piece like people would think someone is doing on the Clinton Foundation, right?
Right, and it seems appropriate for the timing with things going on with the hurricane.
Yeah, with Hurricane Matthew coming through, a lot of devastation there, and a lot of this information has to do with Haiti's president talking about how he was treated, which is an interesting look into it. And finally, we're going to get into chimps and bonobos and how they can empathize with other beings and understand how others feel, which is a pretty interesting topic.
It's a powerful thing. In fact, if you show videos demonstrating this to people who don't believe in evolution, it can be very unsettling. And it's interesting.
Absolutely.
It is. It's interesting. I've done it many times. And it's interesting just to watch the reactions of people, creationists or intelligent designers that say, well, I don't believe in evolution. I don't believe that we came from apes or that we are an ape or that anything like that.
That empathy is unique, something that only humans have.
Or face-to-face sexual positions.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm serious. That used to be totally forbidden. It was verboten to be seen, and they treated it like, well, that's a little too pornographic.
Yeah, that's
and you're
right.
like, why is it pornographic to you? Anyway, it's a fascinating thing. But listen, dude, we have to say something. We have to. And first, to tell people, you're welcome to call in at any time and talk about any of these issues, and you can call 616-656-1680. One more time, 616-656-1680. But dude, last night,
Yeah.
Last night, there were competing narratives, in fact, on releases of sensitive information.
Yeah, on both Hillary Clinton and
yes.
Donald Trump's end.
On both of them. And Trump tapes seems to have prevailed, at least as a hashtag. And there's suspicion as to WikiLeaks and how it was spelled Lekes on Twitter's autofill, as well as the Podesta emails instead of Podesta. They included an R in that. That was neat as an autofill. But the Trump tapes seems to be the trending topic of today.
Yeah, it seems to have ruled the day. And also those tapes, vulgar, explicit, everything that I think most people would have assumed someone like Donald Trump would have said, I don't think it's a humongous surprise on my end. And it's not a humongous surprise on the end of Hillary Clinton and what's been kind of released about her. I think we know who these people are.
And here's the thing. The people who actually go and look at these, and I follow a lot of individuals on Twitter that is literally all they ever do, is they just go in, they FOIA the daylights out of stuff, and they post it and they share it, and you've got DC Leak, and there's other ones where they share this information. After a while, it almost becomes numbing in a way, and it's a really terrible thing because you see something and you go, oh, well, that's just grotesquely an instance of pay for play, right? Mm-hmm. Or, oh my gosh, look at this conflict of interest, or holy moly, did this person really say this about a demographic? Whatever it may be, that it's numbing.
Yeah, this is not.
It's like, wow, okay, yeah, she's even worse than I imagined her being.
It's certainly not mudslinging; it's mud bombing at this point on both ends.
And now Trump talking about just go ahead and grabbing the old crotch, the old crotcheroo.
Oh my gosh!
And saying that that's okay because he's a star.
Yeah,
and what a ridiculous, offensive thing. What an intrusive, what a criminal thing.
Yeah,
what a criminal thing.
It's wild.
Yeah.
We've got Chris from GR on the line. Hey, Chris, how are you doing?
I just wanted to say that I relate to being a product of Buddy Holly's story. And I have a fear of flying, too.
Hey, that's great.
Okay, that's all. But, oh, wait, I really do want to hear what your take is on Haiti.
Yeah, we'll get into that. That's going to be an interesting one.
Well, thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Chris.
Bye-bye.
And I'm excited about the Haitian one, too, because I think that there's been a decent number of Haitian protesters throughout this entire, almost everywhere she goes.
I know.
There are Haitian protesters, and it seems like they don't get much space in the narrative about it. Even with Black Lives Matter, I don't know, and I don't want to say that they don't, but I don't know how often I've seen people like Sean King or others, DeRay McInnes. I don't know how often I've seen them share things about the Haitian protesters.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to see.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
All right. First topic we're going to get into is an article from The Independent. Islamic communities contain tsunami of atheism that are being suppressed, says ex-Muslims. This documentary exposes silent challenges facing those who abandon their Muslim faith, and this is by May Bowman. Thousands of ex-Muslims in Britain are living in fear of violent revenge for abandoning the Islamic faith, while others are afraid to admit they no longer believe, a support group for ex-Muslims has said. Mariam Namazi, founder of the Council of Ex-Muslims of Britain, described that a tsunami of atheism in Muslim communities that has been urged and that needs more to be done to recognize the dangers often faced by those who choose to renounce their faith. Mm-hmm. So this is an interesting predicament. It does make sense.
It actually makes sense if you think about it.
Certainly it does.
Yeah. If you have a group of people, and look at our own history, for example. Our own history, you can go back 1700s, 1800s, where you start to see more of kind of this looser interpretation of things in the Bible. It's not so rigid or strident. And parallel to that was a movement that went back to fundamentalism as a response, in fact, to say, listen, there's a lot of loosey-goosey going on with our holy books.
We're going to lock it down.
We're locking it down. This is what it is. Mm-hmm. And I think that you see that. In fact, if people, again, I'll say Twitter is a great source for this, where you can follow organizations that share information specifically about more secularized Muslims talking publicly. They look, if you just saw it and you didn't have subtitles and you didn't have an organization that found these clips, you wouldn't see that. Because the MSM, mainstream media, most people, in fact, when they share stories about it, there's kind of a single narrative about what's going on.
Well, there is.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing, and this will probably draw some callers, but a lot of it is Noam Chomsky. The West has done everything to the Middle East, and that's where most of problems and all the issues in the Middle East come from. And that if we were to leave, everything would be hunky-dory. And that I don't think is true from a religious standpoint, which this is where it gets into the hot water with everyone, is when you start talking about religious groups and having maybe misogynistic or sexist point of views or ideas like death for apostasy. Those things get into touchy water with people that feel like all religions need to be put into one basket and never judged and never criticized. And there's an evolution of religion that we have to accept as a fact. Christianity went through these times in their earlier development, and Islam as a younger religion is going through some of the same things in terms of how they feel about Puritanism, right? 1600s, what was making people call other people witches and use the Bible to burn them alive, right? It's the development of the thought and the religion that I think makes it a problem. But the biggest thing we have here in the United States is liberals can easily see that if it's in Christianity right now. It's wide open. They can say, hey, when Ted Cruz says that he doesn't like gay people or Rick Santorum puts bills in there, that's because of his religious faith that he says that. Nobody even has a problem saying it. But when you see something in the Middle East and someone says, well, it's their religion that's making them homophobic or misogynistic, people go, well, no, that's gross, that's racist, that's Ben Affleck's whole rigmarole. Because of the intersectionality of it all, it still goes back to the feet of the West all the time. Always. All the time. Now, and here's an example. I mean, it'd be... I think it's incumbent upon me to say if I mention, hey, we should search out an organization that deals with this, go to the Council of Ex-Muslims of Britain, for example. Absolutely. Established in 2007, has grown in recent years. Last year, it launched a Twitter campaign, again, Twitter, ahead of Human Rights Day under the hashtag #ExMuslimBecause, which went viral in 24 hours, with 120,000 people from 65 countries using it to express their experiences. And there's a documentary coming up called Exposure, and it explores the lives, according to the article, explores lives of ex-Muslims faced with abuse and discrimination. It comes out October 13th, real close. Yeah, and please watch that. And Miss Namazi, who is an Iranian-born activist and ex-Muslim herself, who's also the leader of the program, describes the silent challenges by saying, quote, "It's a hidden challenge for people here in Britain. It's framed in the context of identity politics. Racism and any criticism means that you are a racist. But we are minorities within minorities, and we have a right to speak and live our lives the way we want, the same as anybody else." So here's a dichotomy question I just have to raise. What would you do for the transphobic person who is a Muslim in the Middle East? Because there is almost a choosing of sides there. Do you choose for that person's right to live the way they want and not be violently attacked, or do you choose the other road of saying that everything is okay in the Middle East with how they treat people that are trans or gay? That's a huge honking debate. You're welcome to join in. 616-656-1680. We'll be right back.
Love Paleo Radio? Join the club. Support our work by visiting patreon.com/Paleo Radio today.
Back to Eagle and Dragon.
Thank you, Angela, for that introduction. And thank you for working those hot lines. The number 616-656-1680. We have too much fun with this. Okay.
I love it.
Now, listen. We've been talking about Twitter a lot, and we strongly encourage you, we implore you, in fact, to go and follow us at Paleo Radio Show. And we've been trying to share even from our own Twitter page. So it's a hub, and we post stuff there. But we also share from our personal walls. And so you can find us there. I'm Paleocrat. He's Joe Elder Comedy. And so you can find us on Twitter with that. But we've been found recently by some real champs, some verified folks, Joe.
Yeah, isn't that nice?
We have Francesco Marconi. He's a media strategist implementing a future of journalism at the Associated Press, a fellow at Tow Center, T-O-W, an adjunct at Columbia Journal.
Yeah.
Totally awesome.
Thank you for the follow.
Jack Hunter. I thought this was interesting. Jack Hunter, I first learned of him as the Southern Avenger.
Yes. The Southern
Avenger. He's now editor at Rare.us. I like his work. that he does over there. Ethan Barton, humanist author, film, literature, and music snob, Daily Caller investigative reporter. Gary O'Neill, he's a Vine master. This guy's got tons of followers, and he's just a master of Vines. And lastly, Ryan Teague Beckwith, politics editor in Times D.C. Bureau, part-time teacher at Hoya Journalism School.
Yes, thank you guys for following.
Yeah.
We also follow back, obviously, and we love the media snazzy stuff. We love getting involved with people on social media. We do most of our communicating with our fans and friends through that. So please follow us. Again, Joe Elder Comedy, at Paleocrat for Jeremiah, and at PaleoRadio Show for the show. And we have a caller. Warren, how are you doing, sir?
Oh, pretty good. I'm thinking I've been hearing some other, a lot of shows about this problem with Islamophobia and so forth. Mm-hmm. And one of the books the authors was on, it was a two-author book. The guy worked in the tracking of terrorists in the government. He said he's probably the most vetted person because they've had him up for scrutiny 9 times because he keeps putting data into the system. And apparently, they do surveys, and they found out that of the American Muslims, 50% of them, or just slightly more, all want to have Sharia eventually. And that's a survey. And then there's also 2,000 mosques in the country, and 10% are actually passing out radical information, which makes them about 200 of those mosques. And one of them was the Boston Mosque. And they had already done outreach with the FBI, the CIA, and so forth. So they weren't even on their list when and it goes on and on like that. Like this, we're not having the dialogue about, you can't, how many ways you can be apostate to the system. At some point, you have to be spending at least 8% of your tithe to help jihadists somewhere.
Well, I think one thing that is important about this with Britain, and this is kind of a counterpoint, is the issue that we're talking about with the article is the struggle of people that are living in Britain and understanding and living in that culture and changing their mind about their religion. And that's the actual issue that they're having. So to me, I don't look at it as like there's this wave of Islamic people that are coming and changing minds across America. In fact, I actually would argue that most people that are of the Muslim faith that are in America hold our values closer than they would of a group like ISIS or even Saddam, where they value democracy and they like the conditions in America in the first world.
I would like to know one answer on a question. That is, if you decide not to be a Muslim, aren't you then on essentially a kill list for anybody that wants to get rid of a
That's why we're bringing this up.
We're
saying this is a precarious situation. I mean, we're hoping, we can unveil that bias here on the show. I think we've been very open about it.
Yeah, very.
We prefer secularized Muslims and secularized Islam to a radical Islam.
Yes.
And by radical, I mean, I'm including stuff that's known in any polling data we have, because I say around the world is a very radical thing.
To be equally fair, too, I value, and Jeremiah as well, a secularized Christianity where people don't really take that book literally.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I agree with all that.
But so what do you do?
The point is that in Christianity itself, except for maybe the Old Testament, which is there is no reform allowed in Islamics. They don't have a dialogue open to reinterpreting anything there.
Sure, and for many, many years, Christianity also did not. And I'm not trying to play tit for tat. I'm only saying
that's fine.
that
I don't mind. I'm just
the
saying
time is coming too, where I think a lot of people are having that conversation, and that's also what can be pushing some of it. Like Jeremiah says, it's a precarious situation where most people that are actually in this are suspended in the middle, like Namazi, like Miss Namazi says, where you have people, or Namazi, thank you, where Miss Namazi says, where you have a lot of people in Britain that are holding more of a secular belief system, but they're still going to mosque, they're still practicing in the culture of Islam, but they're very scared to talk about their belief, and that is that's the beginning of opening a door to the dialogue, I think.
Well, here's the place where Jeremiah has a lot of background expertise, because he used to know a lot about the Dominionists. What, Jeremiah, would you say is the difference between the actual secular / fiscal / social / religious structure of Islam versus Christianity? Now, I understand Dominionism is...
Well, I think there's a lot, and I know what you're saying. In fact, Joe and I, we've had discussions on this in private. Our conversations at the dinner table or whatever, talking about is Christianity as scary? right? And internally, does Christianity have devices, or has it discovered devices that allow for it to go from a place where you didn't even have the right to interpret the Scripture to the place where you tell people that they don't have the right to tell you how to interpret Scripture? And I said, I don't know if Islam has those mechanisms within its hermeneutical construct. And what I mean by that is the way that they understand not only the nature of the Quran and what it is, but also what it's for and how it is known. How is it understood? And I don't know. I think that there's big differences between Christianity and Islam on that score. And one's far more restricting. And it applies, I mean, listen, they don't have room. And I've said this a lot too. I said Islam, one of the difficulties is that it doesn't seem to make room for the city of man, whereas Christianity historically has been dominated by that dialectic between the recognized city of man and the recognized city of God, and that plays a real role in it. That city of man is where secularization really happens. That's where that's the battery pack for this. That's what's pumping out non-religious stuff. For people, even within religion, to look at and say, hey, that might make a little bit of sense. I don't think that Islam has that, not only within their mosques, in the mosque system, the system theologically, but also consequently, judicially. And so I don't really know, but yet at the same time I say, what do we do? Even if we admit all of that, what do we do with the atheist Muslim or the secular one that says, I don't really think gay people are bad?
Because they managed to do it. The similar one that looks like is Old Testament, had those series of laws, very extreme and very punitive, and you really could be in trouble if you were in the system, as a practicing Jew, and you did anything outside, left the system, whatever. If you didn't get excommunicated, you could be killed. That does seem very similar to the to the Muslimic. But I don't know what the Hebraic. They had quite a bit of, even the Jubilees and things pertained to economic system. I mean, it was really nailed down. Sassing your folks and stuff. I mean, they had penalties for all this stuff. In Christianity, we at least have Protestantism, which went against Catholicism, was turning into that for a while with the what do you call it? Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Yeah.
Well, and I think,
but
I think the big thing too is there has been, what most people are saying too is there needs to be a Martin Luther in Islam that goes up to the mosque and nails the different ways of interpreting Islam onto the door. That is really what it is. But the question is, has it already happened? Certainly it is. There's plenty of people that are going around the globe speaking about their different interpretation of Islam and things that need to be reformed and changed about it that have come from that community. The thing is, it's just a matter of if we see and recognize those people or not. And we say their names a lot on Paleo Radio because we believe it's an important thing to push. But Majid Nawaz, Ayan Hirsi Ali, Faisal Saeed Al-Mutar, these are people that speak regularly about it. There's a lot of people that are talking about things that need to move in Islamic culture in a way that can adapt to 21st century ways of thinking that are not particularly Western. It's just about having a general set of principles.
Yeah, and I want to thank him for his phone call. We're moving on, but we appreciate it. And I just, I guess the last thing I'll say is this, is that even if we conclude and say, well, Islam is not as good about change internally, it doesn't seem like there's as many mechanisms. There's the city of man, city of God. However we want to play it out, or look at how bad things are and the way that people view honor killings, or the way that they view child marriages, or whatever it may be. All of that can be admitted in its maximum. Just for the sake of argument, you could completely admit to all of that, and you're still left with the fact that people will say, I don't care if it's not consistent with the system. I don't believe in systematizing this the way that these other theologians over here do. I have a different approach to it, and I think it's mystical or magical, or that there's kind of shrouded in symbolism. And they can take a secularized approach to their theology and to how they interpret the Quran. And it doesn't have to be able to be systematized with the pre-existing order. That's the whole point of the fact that people will disagree and say, I don't buy that anymore.
And I think one thing that is in the advantage of of a religion like Islam more than Christianity was is just our access to information. The everyday person's access to information is so much greater now than it ever used to be, where ideas like this can be reduced. And when I say ideas, I'm not talking about reducing Islam as an entire religion. People holding the faith is one thing, but there's pure research results that show that people's religious beliefs in Islam are quite different than people's religious beliefs in Christianity, and I think time shows that. It's not a matter of the people, and it's not a matter of intelligence. It's a matter of the development of thought and how you can pick at ideas that are good and ideas that are bad and decide which ones are positive, which are negative, and how you can improve a system. And all systems need to have that within them.
And as a listener to the show, for all of you who've been following the Freaks and Geeks, the Foaming at the Mouth mob of friends and everybody that we have here, you know that we don't shy away or wink at statistics that we've expounded on polling data before. We recognize the difficulties that are faced when looking at Islam from the West, that we say, boy, these values really don't seem to jive. And yet at the same time, we can all look back in our own history at a time where we could say the same thing, and yet we've kind of been making it out of there.
That's right.
And we have to believe and have to hope that that can be done with Islam.
Stick around. We're going to be back. Paleo Radio.
Now back to Joe and Jeremiah.
Welcome back to Paleo Radio on 95.3 FM, 1680 AM. Again, if you guys are a fan, please like us on our Facebook page, Paleo Radio. We do we have a lot of activity on that, and we also have a lot of fun with it. We post some handy-dandy memes for everyone to love and share. Like, Everyone I Don't Like is Alternative Right, the Emotional Child's Guide to Political Discussion.
Yes, and it has Pepe the Frog sliding down a rainbow. It looks like it was drawn by a young child.
Yep. Shared from our good pal Dave Rubin's page.
Yeah, and on Twitter we have Skeptic Smash podcast and neuroscientist Matthew James, author of Only an Atheist and Jesus Returns, followed us.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Thank
Been added
you,
to a
sir.
couple cool lists as well. Eva Smith, she added us to a list on Twitter. She's an award-winning techie and director of globalwomensummit.org.
Yeah, thank you for the addition.
Okay, now listen, this is a big deal. Haiti. You know, I stumbled on... I didn't even know. I didn't even think about it. Like, oh, how screwed has Haiti been since the last time around, since the last go-round of big money bucks, big daddy big bucks coming in and saying they're going to help. And I mean, we had all the celebrities. Remember this?
Oh, sure.
Remember? like this was on the cover of magazines and everything else, and then it kind of just faded away. And I didn't see it very often after that.
They did that huge concert and all that money went there, but the whole thing is, I think people just stop at the end of their nose of thinking, well, the money is sent, so obviously the money's going where it should go, and that's where the fallout happens, isn't it?
It's terrible. And so I saw this on the Huffington Post, and I watched a video. I was like, well, what's going on with this stuff? You know, Haiti's kind of back in the news, the hurricane, what's going on? How did they do? I mean, man, they're hit a second time. It cued me to think about it. So I went back and looked it up, and I found a video of the former president of Haiti talking about getting the shakedown from the Clinton family, the Clinton Foundation, getting totally shook down. And this is a guy, I mean, he's like, you can watch him talking about this and his experiences. And I mean, that's the stuff you see in mob movies. I mean, it's like, whoa, this is not good. And then there's a documentary that's been put out, a couple of them, in fact, that show the houses that have been rebuilt. And they talk about how much of the money was in here. And it just blew my mind. Well, here is an article. And interestingly enough, it's by the Huffington Post, which is not known.
Which is not known for going after HRC.
Yeah, right. It says the Clinton Foundation's legacy in Haiti. Haitians are more than upset. H.A. Goodman, the Huffington Post. And it says the Miami Herald has a video of Haitian activists protesting the Democratic National Convention, primarily because of, quote, the Clinton Foundation's spending in Haiti after the 2010 earthquake, end quote. According to The Nation, in a piece titled The Shelters That Clinton Built, the Clinton Foundation provided Haiti with trailers, quote, structurally unsafe and laced with formaldehyde. It came from the same company being sued for sickening Hurricane Katrina victims, end quote.
Wow.
So this is The Nation, too.
Yeah.
I mean, right?
Yes.
And so you have to go on, that's the alternative left. right? That's a alternative thing. I mean, they're very progressive, but it's not mainstream. The Nation been around a long time, respectable.
Yes, it has.
Very respectable, and yet here they are talking about it. And I sat there and I said, man, it's true. I've seen these structures that they build and the ones that the people themselves, because they didn't get any money, right? And by that, I'm not kidding. Let me say this again. They didn't get jack. They got Cracker Jack's box tattoos. Yeah. I mean, relative to the size of what was supposedly theirs.
Sure.
Offensive.
It was absolutely offensive. And that's the other thing is, they knew that when they were making that happen in Haiti, that they knew what was going on with the company that had built those same shelters for Katrina. That was already happening when they were building these things. So it wasn't like they were out of the knowledge or not in the know that those weren't very, very high quality shelters to be building. Right? So they knew that at the time they were building them in Haiti, it was a different time. 2 years difference? Between that time, people had already recognized those shelters were garbage.
We're talking Shantyland.
Yeah, Shantyland.
Shantyland.
That's why right now with the Hurricane Matthew, in certain cities of Haiti, only 1% of the buildings are standing.
Yeah, like the Three Little Pigs story? I mean, I'm dead serious. That's what we're talking about. We're talking Three Little Pigs. And we're talking about blowing houses down, and we all know that some structures are really easy to be destroyed. Yes. It's very simple. It doesn't take a whole huge honking act of God right, for that to happen. But in this case, when you do have an act of God, right, your major time hurricane, then it's even worse.
Yeah.
It's more vast, a huge scale.
It is. It's sad, really. But the thing, too, is this is how it works. A lot of people believe that these relief foundations that come, whether it's Clinton Foundation or others that go over to those areas, they have business implications and incentives there. So those places will go to somewhere like Haiti and say, yeah, we will help rebuild the city. We've got the money that you need. We also want to make a resort here. And we're not particularly interested in having the local government be involved in how the money's shared with this resort. Yeah, but we do want to build it on your island. And Haitians come back and say, well, we want to renegotiate that deal. And they'll say, well, we'll pull the money and we won't help you at all. Good luck.
Yeah, former president says that he was told he'd be made a rich man.
Yeah.
That's literally what he said, he would be made a
rich man.
Unimaginable wealth. And the writer of this piece interviewed Harvard-trained investor and financial analyst Charles Ortel, Dady Sherry, and I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it right, co-editor-in-chief of News Junkie Post, refers to Ortel as one of the world's finest financial analysts. And he's talking about the involvement, and he says the answer is really simple, in that billions of dollars in quote-unquote aid supposedly were raised to help the desperately poor people in Haiti. Yet Bill Clinton and the Clinton Foundation refused to account in granular and verified fashion for any of this aid. In fact, he says accounts from multiple parties suggest that Haiti has little to show in the parts of the nation that were devastated in January of 2010. Of the 100 million, Haiti received 1%.
Yeah, can you believe that?
Here's $1 million. Go buy yourself some lottery tickets. 1%. I'm serious. What are you doing? You're throwing quarters on the ground and saying go buy a lotto ticket.
Yeah, and so Haitians are more upset than ever over what happened to their missing aid. Goodman asked, what role did the Clinton Foundation have in bringing multinational companies into Haiti, which is what we were just talking about? Ortel says, the simple answer is that no one really knows precisely because auditors have never checked any part of the Clinton Foundation properly since it was formed on the 23rd of October, 1997.
That's really neat.
Interesting.
That's interesting.
Crucial documents concerning the period when Bill was special UN envoy forward are omitted from the Clinton Foundation website, but available on the state regulatory websites, including here, which has a link, and we can share this, as we always do on our Spreaker uploads. We will have the links to all of this. But if you think about that, that is unique where he says, I can't actually even tell you what happened because we've never been able to look at the books.
Yeah, and he says, much of the multinational work seems to have been done through the Clinton Global Initiative. The easiest quote-unquote red flag to see is that there are no compliant audits of the financial statements of any Clinton Foundation entity from 23 October 1997 forward. That's not including the fact that the accounting used during the formation of the complex were accounting principles not allowed in the United States.
Yeah.
Think about this.
That's crazy.
Wowza. Yeah. And again, just flash your mind back to that day an age where all those celebrities and musicians and stuff were talking about Haiti, and you need to give that money because we're really going to help them.
Yeah.
And you've got Bill and Hillary and the foundation and all their buddy chums. We're here to help, folks.
Yep.
Throwing quarters on the ground.
Well, do you think that my thing is they're taking it, in a way, though, I don't think that those stars in those movies, I don't think those people know how that works. I don't think that they're like, yeah, this is going to really put money in my pocket. I think they actually think that they're making money that goes to a foundation that has systems in place to help people. But it's a it's like the Red Cross. What did they find out about? Was it the Red Cross with cancer research? I'll have to look it up. Before I go naming names, I guess, let me retract that, and I'll have to look it up during the break. But there's companies for centers of institutes that are focused on cancer research. Turns out like less than 10% of what they do goes into cancer research. So when everyone's been donating thinking that it's going to this,
it's not really going to it.
No. And companies have always taken advantage of disorganization.
Well, yeah, and talking about how, for example, the CBHF claims in its 990s to the IRS that it had no foreign bank accounts. How did they manage millions of dollars inside Haiti? And see, I guess this is where I would look and say, yes, it's true. I agree with you that celebrities aren't going, hey, man, this is a good scam. Let's all just get in on this scam because we're going to make tons of loot. At the same time, I think that there's not any vetting going into the protesting or the charity work to say, it'd take a follow-up question. You know, how are we going to get the millions there? Who oversees making sure that we make sure that these people don't get hosed?
Yeah.
And a follow-up. How detached, if you go and you make such an emphasis and years go by, we're talking 6 years now, to go by and to not even realize that all of those efforts that you committed yourself to and your brand as a person and your trustworthiness, there's your result.
Don't you think that that's why people don't go checking, though, is they just assume people are not heinous enough to do it? And that's why people that are think it's an easy walk? For instance, like the telltale signs were there that there's something going on. Ortel says, prior to the earthquake, Bill Clinton had been appointed UN Special Envoy to Haiti in early 2009. But they also did something quite curious in Florida related to Haiti. They set up an entity called the William J. Clinton Foundation Corporation. Ordinarily, the foundation might simply just register as the AR parent as licensed to do charity work inside Florida. But instead, Cheryl Mills et al. Seem to have established a brand new domestic Florida entity with similar surrounding names as the main entity. And he says this practice is frowned upon and deemed to many but to be a warning sign for charity fraud. Mm-hmm. Because it's making loops into loops. To make sense of this, when people hear, oh, this corporation onto a corporation, what in the world does this mean? It means that they could have signed license as the Clinton Foundation and the UN envoy to just say, we're going to do work in Florida, and here you can see our numbers. But instead, they set up another group within that has other protections that they can use so you can't see what they're doing, and they name it very similar to what their group is, and that signs for the licensure. That is shady town. That makes people wonder, why in the world would you do that? The only reason you're looking for protection is usually if you're covering something up like that. You know,
there's so much in this article. I really encourage people to go and check it out. The Clinton Foundation's Legacy in Haiti. Haitians are more than upset. It's by H.A. Goodman at the Huffington Post. But Goodman ends by, bringing up the fact that they say they raised $100 million, but the truth is no one really knows. The largest single expenditure was $37 million, but both declarations were listed to a P.O. box in Maryland. The problem is the foundation only had offices in D.C. And finishes by saying this, quote, around the world, the Clinton Foundation seems to seek out desperate nations with limited infrastructure or disasters and then inserts itself in front of an incoming aid flow. They did this in Mozambique, in Papua New Guinea, in Haiti, and with Katrina in New Orleans, and in many other places.
Yeah.
And I think, maybe it is time for an audit.
Yes.
I mean, doesn't it just seem like with all of this information that's come out about the Clinton Foundation so far in this election, that at bare minimum, it just seems like maybe she and that foundation should enjoy the luxury that Donald Trump is experiencing by being audited.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say. If Trump can be audited, which he should be, the Clinton Foundation should be audited, which they should be.
For debates, interviews, or speeches, contact PaleoRadio Show at gmail.com.
You love to hate 'em, you hate to love 'em. You just can't get enough of 'em, you sick freaks. Paleo Radio's on the air.
This is a mega alert for all the paleocrats. It's a big deal. Amazon has responded to complaints about the sexy burqa Halloween costume.
Yes.
It is now officially not on the site any longer.
Yes.
So you're going to have to look local shelves if you want to find the sexy burqa. But if you are looking for the bad habit or naughty nun or sexy priest costume, those are all still available.
Pump up penis priest. You know,
Pump up penis
that's an
priest.
awesome Halloween city costume. I do like that one though. I think it's funny and it's a joke that's good once a year, I would say. So, hey, the best topic, one of my favorite ones here. I shouldn't say best, but one of my favorites. This is The New Scientist. Chimp, bonobos, and orangutans grasp how others view the world. This is by Emily Benson. Apes may be even more like us than we thought. They appear to anticipate that a person's actions will follow his or her beliefs, even when they know the person is wrong, an ability never before demonstrated in non-human primates. The capacity to infer what others might be thinking, known as theory of mind, is central to what makes us human and is reflected in the ways we cooperate and communicate, says Christopher Crupenye. Can you help me with that?
Crupenier? I don't know. Let's just say Crupenier.
We'll go Crupenier. Please correct us if we're wrong.
Yeah, at PaleoRadio at gmail.com.
And Christopher Crupenye is the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology in Leipzig, Germany. He is one of their representatives. Humans, for example, possess an awareness of false beliefs held by other individuals, recognizing that the thoughts of others don't necessarily reflect reality.
Yeah,
well,
so that's why we can
concept.
say that somebody's a cuckoo bird. We can say, oh, that's cuckoo nonsense.
Yeah, we know that person.
Yeah, just because a person believes it and comes up and tells you the new fascinating tale about anything in the world, just go to InfoWars, doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. That you can look at that and go, yeah, I know that person says this is what's true about reality, but I'm not really sure there's lizard people.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So this is an interesting study that they did, and they also have some video evidence of what they did. So they had one study, they called it King Kong in a Haystack. It says in this one video that you see, there's a fake ape that hits a person and then hides in one of two haystacks while the person watches. After the human leaves the scene, King Kong, in quotations, exits the haystack and runs off screen, and the person then reappears, apparently looking for the attacker. Because humans and other animals will look at a location where they anticipate action, the haystack that the apes glanced at first when they watched the video might indicate the one that they expected the human to approach. The researchers used a camera to track the eyes of 40 apes, including chimpanzees, bonobos, and orangutans. Of the 30 apes that focused on the haystacks, 2/3 of them looked first at the one where the human falsely believed the character was hiding. So there is the theory of mind there where they're saying, well, he had a reason to look there, I'm going to look there too. The scientists also tested the apes with a similar scenario in which the, quote, King Kong character hides a stone in one of two boxes as the person watches, but then steals it when they leave. When the person returns to look for the stone, about 3/4 of the apes that paid attention to the boxes glanced first at the one that the human should have opened. So they knew which they were watching the person purposely open the wrong one, and they're watching the one that they know they should be looking at.
Yeah, they're anticipating it, which means they can also distinguish between two different people and what intentions may be. One person comes in and steals something, but that other person doesn't know, so that other person's going to go to where they left it.
Yes. So it says they can anticipate that an individual will search for an object where they last saw it, even though the apes know that it's no longer there. That's a really important human skill that's never been shown before in apes. So just to give another example, there's like two boxes. One person comes up, drops a stone in that box, and the ape is sitting there watching, and another person comes and removes that stone from there. And when the person comes back, the apes know, and they can tell by where they're looking, that the person's going to go back to the box and look for it, even though the ape knows that it is not there.
But
so you can tell that there's
too.
observation happening in a major scale. The ape is watching it happen, and then he's looking and going, I have a good reason to believe he's going to look into that box first.
And we would do the same thing.
Certainly we would.
I mean, absolutely, 100%. You know, according to Laurie Santos over at Yale, this raises more questions than it answers. It says, we don't yet have a reason why primates fail other false belief studies while succeeding on this one. But Alia Martin at Victoria University in Wellington in New Zealand said one possibility is that earlier studies tested for conscious understanding, whereas the new one demonstrates implicit knowledge, similar to the kind that human infants display.
Yes.
Which that would seem to also make some sense.
Well, sure. If you think about evolutionary scales, whenever I talk about evolution or think about it, in a way I think of when you have those volume synthesizers on a radio or on some sort of speaker, and they're going up and down, and there's random influxes, but it has a base amount of dots that are showing. Basically, when they're jumping up down, there's a consistency of everything. There's vast differences at the top, but at the very base, it's the same. And it's the same here, where evolution incrementally builds. So there has to be some tests that apes are failing, but some of them where they're succeeding. And it does make more sense that it would be observation-based, like implicit knowledge as a baby would get.
Right. And listen, I mentioned earlier on in the show, when we first started, I said there was videos, and I encourage people, I think I've said this before, and if I have, you got to give me an indulgence here. But I encourage you, I implore you, in fact, go and check out a documentary, and it's done by, David Attenborough.
Yes.
And it's about the gelada baboons.
Yep, Clever Monkeys.
Clever Monkeys.
You can YouTube it.
Watch the entire Clever Monkey series and just look and watch. I'm telling you, it's even for me, and I believe in evolution, I believe in this, but there was even within me almost a level of discomfort. I was seeing something so familiar that it took me off guard.
Yes.
And I said, their behaviors, what they're doing, even the rules about not fighting in front of kids, or a mother tending to a kid who got hurt in a fight that shouldn't have happened, and the mother is literally
attacked the male that put that infant in the precarious situation,
trying to tone it down.
Yes,
but put the kid in there, gambled on it. The kid gets hurt. The mom is literally, there's no other word for this, the mother is tending to the arm of the child.
She's checking the arm. She's looking at it.
She's moving it around. She's touching it in different spots. The little baboon is holding it up there like that. And I said, how many pictures have we seen? How many paintings have been done of a mother tending to a child like
Absolutely.
that? How many?
Or you look at, this is another example. I'm glad you brought this up, but gelada baboons, there's usually a father who's a matriarch of a small harem of females, which is usually his daughters and his mate.
Yeah, he's a harem master.
And the young males, as they get older as teenagers, group up in small groups and go walking around trying to kind of pull the daughters from the males. And when they do it and they sit down together, they will cover their mouths because they have an implicit flashing of their teeth, which isn't always a threat. It's actually when they're nervous, kind of like a nervous smile, if you will. And they'll put their hand over their mouth to cover it. I mean, if you think about it in human nature, it's amazing. But again, yeah, David Attenborough, Clever Monkeys. You can YouTube it. It's a 5-part series. And there's also another one about language and the development of language amongst other primates, monkeys even, that are in different levels of the canopy. So different species of monkeys live in different levels of the canopy, all with different hoots and sounds.
Tell them about the snatching that egg.
Oh, the egg.
Yeah, you got to tell them. This is perfect.
So this is with capuchin monkeys, which are some of the smartest monkeys on Earth. They're extremely clever. And they have a strict social hierarchy where the older ones, or the more adapted, more alpha males or the alpha families, will take foods and goods from the smaller ranking monkeys in the tribe or in their group. And they're all at a river. And one of the lower-ranking females finds a bird egg, which she knows if she gets caught with, and any other capuchins see her, the alphas will take from her instantly and eat it. So what she does is she buries it into the river. She's watching. There's a whole video of it, looking around, watching her friends, buries it into the river bed. And while she's standing on it, with her feet on it, she makes a call like there's a jaguar or a snake. I can't remember either, but they do have different calls for either. She makes a call for it. All the monkeys jump up into the trees, and as they're looking, she digs up the egg and she eats it. Think about the immense planning that she had to go through to have that happen. Number one, she recognizes other people because she knows that the alphas will take it from her, so she hides it. Then she makes a distress call that she knows is a lie. She basically lied to her group to eat the egg. So she makes a lie.
She got busted.
She commits a lie.
She got busted on camera.
Does get busted.
You're on camera.
Yes. So she makes the call. They all go up, and then she eats it. But if you think about that, when people talk about these inherent human the nature of the human mind and how we think and how we behave, and we behave in social groups because we're social animals, we're exactly the same. That's exactly the same.
Yeah, and if you look at it, and listen, you got to check it, because the part in the Gelada Baboons where you got the 3 dudes walking up trying to find a lady.
Oh yeah.
When they're strutting their stuff, it literally looks like the video for Staying Alive by the Bee Gees.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Where the 3 of them are walking down the sidewalk to that music, that funky beat that's playing.
Yep.
And they've got that kind of swagger that's going on. That is literally what these baboons look like, and the girls go running off and they kind of hide and they mingle with each other. They share, they have little seeds and nuts that they're always eating, and they chatter with each other all day. They hide their faces when they laugh at the harem master who's wondering, what's that girl doing over there with that boy? And you can see it on full display. It is so to learn of things like this with studies like this, it's fascinating to me because some of it is surprising, and some of it's like, you kind of almost wonder, with all the information we already do have on how they behave, is it really all that surprising that they may be able to, that they would have certain things within their mind that's very much human-like.
That's right. And I think that people, it becomes something that's very interesting, because when you first see it, it blows you away, and you can't believe the similarity. And the more you see them, the older or the more information you get, the more it's not a surprise that they're that similar. And I think it depends on the range of how many people accept evolution to be true. Most people that accept evolution don't want to get into the nitty-gritty phenotypic similarities of animals in humans. Or if they do, they don't believe that's enough evidence. But then when you get into behavior and you say, look, across this humongous group of primates in different species, you see a ranging amount of similarities, some small, some high, in matters of consciousness and understanding and social groups and communication, and nonverbal communication amongst all primates is rampant. It's rampant. It gives credence to the idea that we all have common ancestors and we all have a common link.
The fact that in these videos you have them stealing dogs and then domesticating them with their harem,
and they have a great symbiotic relationship.
Yes, and they climb on them, they pet them, the kids play with the dogs guard them at night, and during the day, all of the baboons come together and they're chattering in these large societal groups.
Yes.
And then at night they go up and they lay in very safe spaces high up. They climb up into mountain areas, into cliffs, where they go ahead and lay to get away from everything, and then go back down and do the social thing again. And I'm like, wow, kind of like Holmes.
Kind of
like Holmes, and then tomorrow I'm back into society. I'm back on the Twitterverse, So it's an amazing thing. You got to watch it, and you got to definitely check out this article, Chimps, Bonobos, and Orangutans, Grasp How Others View the World, by Emily Benson at The New Scientist.
Yeah, it is fantastic. And this is one of my favorite topics. I'm glad we got to cover it. Thank you for bringing it up, too. It was wonderful. And there it is. The music. It ends so fast.
It's totally true.
Yes. Thank you guys again for listening to Paleo Radio. We love you very much. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and follow us on Facebook, Paleo Radio Show. We love to interact with you there, and we would love to continue to interact with you.
And make sure, Spreaker.com/Paleo Radio Show, massive dump of podcasts this week. You're going to have 3 podcasts this week. It's going to be amazing.
Yes.
Catching up.
And we're going to push over 30,000 listens in less than 50 episodes here on Spreaker. So very exciting. Thank you guys so much for listening. We love you very much. We will see you next week.
Listening to Paleo Radio exclusively with Secular Media Group.